Welcome back to March to a Million, the show about building something that compounds, not just grinding for more. I'm your producer, RJ, and I'm here with Greg DuPont. Now, Greg, you've been gone, and you just got back from CoachCon down in Orlando. 2 days in a room full of experts and operators, all trying to figure out the same thing. What do you actually build in a world where AI is changing the game every 90 days? Now, you've come back with a stack of notes and one phrase you keep repeating: from failure to breakthrough. So before we get into the keynotes, the mountain, or any of it, I want to start where the conference started. You said CoachCon didn't open with tactics. It opened with a failure exercise. Now, when I saw that, I was like, oh boy, I'm going to be able to help Greg out big time with a failure exercise. So walk me through that.
You've had a failure or so in your life, RJ?
Yes. You could say that.
Well, for those that are not familiar with what CoachCon is, it's an annual convention for the Dan Sullivan world, the strategic coach world. And Dan Sullivan, to the uninitiated, is a phenomenal coach to entrepreneurs, and he's coached hundreds and thousands of entrepreneurs. And he always starts things with exercise. He likes to put things in context. So as the program got started, we sat down and there was this exercise sheet for us to work out. And he says, okay, now we're going to take a few minutes. Everybody's going to take this time. We're going to set aside 10 minutes for a sprint where you're going to capture the biggest failures that come to mind. And that's an uplifting way to start a day. You spend several $1,000s to be there to be reminded of your failures.
Yeah.
And then the next step in the practice was, now what are your biggest breakthroughs that you've had recently? And then you saw the connections between the failures and the breakthroughs. How if it weren't for the failures, you wouldn't have been pushed to the breakthroughs.
Okay, so why don't you give an example of a failure that you had that led to a breakthrough?
Yeah. Well, and that's the context for a lot of what we're going to talk about today, because as I'm sitting in there, I had to reflect upon the change in my law firm over the last 18 months and the failures that were part of that. Personal failures, procedural failures, relationship failures, all those things that were all entwined in that experience. And from that, as we talk about it in the sessions that we had, if it weren't for that transformative failure, as we write all of that under one big ball, so much of what I've been doing the last 6 months, a year, would not come to pass. And so we learn from those failures. And that was part of the takeaway, right? That, you start looking at it a little differently. And this was the experience with all the people that I talked to, because they would go into breakout sessions and those type of things. And there's the same kind of eureka moments for each one of us that, this we'd not be here if it were not for for those failures and the learnings that came from that. And so, the rule we just decided was, okay, you got to learn to embrace and almost look forward to the failures because they're signs of what can come, but just try not to make the same failure more than once.
Right. So was it an instant realization that failure led to that success? Or was it something that as it was going along and you were getting more information, you were realizing, oh, the reason I had this success was because of this failure?
Yeah, it was the gestalt of the exercise, right? As we go through it and reflect, having that's one of the things that coach is great for. It gives you promptings and space to do these reflections. And that's when you start seeing the connections and the light bulb goes off that says, okay, there's a method to this madness.
Okay. And how does that connect to what you're building now?
So, as we now move into WSN 3.0, Essentially 2.0, I could call that a failure because what I had to do as I was looking at 2.0 and trying to bring this to the marketplace, and the way that pulled me away from my practice and allowed the problems to fester, which became the failure. Now that as I'm building out 3.0, I'm ever so mindful of the bandwidth that the attorney members have to start doing this, and all the processes that I have been building out with my AI and the tech that we've been building out. It wouldn't have happened if it weren't for needing to go back to kind of first principles and how do we fix it.
Okay, so we're going failure into breakthrough. It showed up on the main stage too. So let's talk about keynotes is what you have here in the notes. One of your keynotes was Angus Fletcher, WonderWorks and Primal Intelligence guy. He's in a room full of people chasing AI. What did he have to say about AI?
Well, it's interesting. I have to go down to Orlando, Florida to hear of a guy that's literally about a mile away from my house here in Columbus. But, he is a PhD and all that kind of hoity-toity stuff. But what he was talking about is how he's worked with, Navy SEALs and all those people try to pull out of trauma and all that. And there's just brilliant stuff about how your past reflects into your future. But for the conversation today and all of the context, it's in this moment where we are, where everything is dominated by automation, AI, and all that stuff. We, as humans, our real advantage is the brain's ancient narrative-driven abilities, imagination, emotional insight, flexible judgment, problem solving under uncertainty. These things, these four capacities of what he calls primal intelligence, intuition, imagination, emotion, common sense. This is what, although there's this through line of AI through everything we talked about for those 2 days, this is where the human element thrives. And this is what AI can't come close to reproducing at this point in time.
Interesting. So you told me when you were there, you kept saying, wow. What was the wow part?
He programmed that in us a little bit. And it's taking time to experience wow and wonderment. Wonder itself, wonder at what's going on. And his studies have shown how that is a space in time where kind of when it's a wow, when it kind of takes your breath away, when you look at something with wonder,
sure,
it's when you slow down and you're kind of at your native self at that point in time. And again, and it's fascinating to hear him talk about. I can't do it justice. I'm reading his book right now, but it was a fascinating conversation about how those moments, if you can't think of them, then you need to find more because those kind of reset you and where you are.
Okay. In your answer, in the very beginning of your answer, you use the phrase "wonder at self." What does that even mean?
You ever kind of sit back and figure, how the hell did I do that?
Oh, I've done that many times. Yeah.
Good and bad, right? Right.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And just kind of sitting with that for a little while and just appreciating where these things might come from, these other promptings, and how those moments of clarity, when carried forward, really can be energizing.
Okay. AI, is really good at gathering information, getting information, and putting together, for lack of a better word, programs. Where does that leave the advisor?
So when we think about the advisors in WSN, The AI does the heavy lifting. The proprietary technology that we have developed that allows the attorney to sit with their client and be present and listen to their story and perhaps get some of those wows, because they're shifting gears from where they have been, in the sense that they can be relating and they don't need to be dissecting and digressing into different topics, let alone being so concerned about, I'm not an expert in this. I've not spent years doing all this financial analysis and having, imposter syndrome, but rather the AI, the systems that we put together that are built around that, it just allows them to sit in wonder with their clients and be engaged and to be genuinely curious about what's going on in their world, what concerns they have, what problems they want to have fixed. Because all they need to do is have those conversations, capture those conversations, turn it over to our systems. And next thing you know, they've got an analysis that they can go back to that client and say, hey, this is what we heard. This is the implications of it. Are these any problems that you want to fix? Okay, if you want to fix, this is how we'll do it. And that system that I have developed wouldn't have been there without the failures.
Interesting. I'm listening to you and I'm going in my mind, is it possible that AI can make us more human or pay attention to the more human aspects of different situations?
Well, that's a brilliant insight, RJ. Not to blow smoke up your rear end on that, but yeah, you're right. It allows us to stop thinking and analyzing and just be present. Your predecessor, God love him, Shut the F Up and Listen, his book.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
And Matt was very big on you just need to be present and listen.
Mm.
And what I had learned in debriefing with attorneys throughout this process for the last 3 years is they get so wrapped up in the technique, in the technical details, that they can't relax and connect, which is what they can do with their native skills of estate planning that they've been doing for years. And so now we're able to get them back in the comfort zone and make them, well, they are attorneys. So people accuse us attorneys of never being human, but that's another story altogether, right?
Yeah, that's only said when you don't need an attorney. When you need an attorney, then you're our best buddy. That you know how that works. So
I got a guy.
Yeah, there you go. Let's go to keynote number 2, which, as I'm looking at the notes here, couldn't be more different. Okay. So your other keynote was Allison Levine, first American woman's Everest expedition. Now, every advisor on earth uses a mountain metaphor for retirement. I think that goes beyond just advisors. I think everybody uses a mountain metaphor for something. Did she give you a new one, or did you just hear the same old metaphor?
I've never climbed a mountain. Have you?
Well, technically, yes. Not Mount Everest. But we walked up a small, my wife and I, when we lived in Massachusetts, there was a park that had a mountain that we would walk up to get some exercise.
Oh, okay. Well, so you're calling me out on a technicality.
Yeah, very technical.
First of all, her background story was very, very insightful, and she was chosen to lead this first expedition, all females, on Mount Everest. And as she walked through, it occurred to me, because I'd never heard of this part of the thing, right? I just heard people climb it and come back down. But the process they have to go through to launch the assault on the mount, on the top, is a recurring, you start at base camp, and then you go up to the next level, and then you got to go back down to base camp. Then you go back up to that level, back down to base camp to get acclimated. And it's weeks of this advance and retreat, advance and retreat, going up to higher levels, but coming back down. And after weeks of this you're not going anywhere, and you're coming back down. The reason why people retiring advisors say this is like coming back down is a dangerous part. Well, so every day they're going up and coming back down, going up and coming back down. And it's not until they get to the point where the peak is within view that, well, not view, but they've got a 1-day push that they can make it to the peak from where their last base camp is at that point in time. And you basically get the one shot, because by that time you've used up all of your extra oxygen, all your extra supplies and all that stuff. And so they get one shot. And so when they ran their assault to try to get to the peak, the weather kept them from there. And, a year of setting this up, months of being there and being with it just within reach, literally. And then because the weather was too tricky at that point in time, they couldn't go forward. And I sat with that, and I thought, okay, so many financial advisors, use the cliche, it's much more dangerous coming down. So decumulation is the riskier part. It's not the accumulation side. But when I sat with what actually happens on that mountain, it's so much more like the entire savings journey and the use journey. You're sitting there, you're saving, and you're reaching up. I've got this level. Okay, I'm comfortable. And then the market takes it away from you. And then you go back up and the market takes it away from you. But you're always at that point in life heading towards the top of the mountain.
Interesting.
Slowly heading up the top of the mountain, gaining and then losing, having setbacks. And then you're now at the top. We're right there where the goal, the peaceful retirement, the getting to the peak of the summit, it's there. You know it. This is the day. And then what can happen? When weather comes in and you don't get the chance to successfully hit that summit. And just like with the retirement, you come in and you're at that point, and next thing we know, we have a war in the Middle East and we've lost half of the value of our portfolio because we haven't taken the right steps, those kind of things. So it's so much deeper than the stereotypical, coming down is more dangerous than going up.
Okay. So talking about the client's portfolio and when it drops, in your notes, you use this word, I make sure I pronounce this right, acclimatizing. So walk me through what that actually means to someone.
We're acclimatizing, so maybe I made that word up, right?
Sounded good to me.
Yeah, so you're getting used to a certain level of volatility, right? As you're going up that mountain, you're getting used to, okay, I'm going to go 5 steps forward, 4 steps back, 5 steps forward, 4 steps back. And so as you use that as your frame of reference, you get kind of used to it as you're saving. But what they don't realize is when you're coming down the other side, it basically, if you lose that same type of amount, you're basically in an avalanche.
Right.
Right. So you're trying to control the descent, but you're used to ascent and descent on the way up. And too many people don't understand that we need to control the descent on the way down. And that's where the typical metaphor comes into play all the time. But, although you're acclimatizing yourself to all this stuff, you got one shot at it.
Huh. That's kind of an unsettling thought, having just one shot at it. So, anyway, let's move on. You've got a thread running through both keynotes, and you said it ran throughout the whole conference, even in the hallways. What idea kept circling around the conference and outside the keynotes too?
The whole concept that this group of several hundred entrepreneurs, how the evolution of AI and technology and the next step for them is moving from an operator to an architect, from a doer of systems to a creator of systems, and the empowering impact of AI as right here in my backyard, what I started out at the beginning with. The failure led me to become the architect of the systems that were able to build more resiliency in my practice, my financial firm, and by extension into to WSN. And that theme went through everything, that AI, you're now the architect. You're telling it what to do. And you're applying that back to your own business.
How difficult is that going to be? Because you're sort of losing a little bit of control from, I would say, from doing things one way for many years. And now you're changing how you're going about your business. That's not an easy transition. So what would be your advice to a advisor and how to really grasp onto that transition?
That's going to be what separates the winners from the losers going forward. You just, with all of the changes going on, we need the agility to let go of old ways and approach things from a different frame. And when you start actively engaging and using this technology, whichever formats it arises, it frees you from the old paradigms and allows you these increases in efficiency and a better overall product for everybody. But if you want to hold on to the way things were done in 2020, you're not going to be around in 2030.
Wow, that got me thinking. I was thinking about the people who didn't want to change from a horse and buggy to a, gas-powered automobile. I mean, in a way, it's a similar type of situation.
Everybody's afraid of technology, and we can't be. We can't have these visions of despair running how we're looking at the future. We've got to look at it with the promise. Have you been to Disney? I'm sure
Yes.
You've been to Disney, right?
Yeah. Yes.
The earworm piece from the Carousel of Progress.
Yes.
I'm gonna inflict you with it. There's a great big beautiful tomorrow, right? Coming at the end of every day, or something like that.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate
that. Yeah. But all of the technologies that Walt was showcasing throughout that, the changes on the horizon, all of that. It was all technology that at one point in time people were scared of, and people are scared of AI and data centers and all those kind of things, but
sure.
But they don't have to be that way. And again, to your point, if you embrace it and use it as opposed to fight it, then in your own practice, now it doesn't have to be on the scale that I'm doing things. Not everybody's looking to try to possibly impact 1 million families, but in your own life, integrating some of these things in your business makes your life better.
Absolutely. Yeah, you have to embrace change. Otherwise, you get left behind. That's That was always ingrained into me throughout my career. If you don't embrace change, you're going to be left behind. So I look at it the same way. All right, so let's start wrapping this up. If you got the CoachCon systems, the mountain. What's the actual why underneath it for you?
Well, for me, obviously, the why is always towards that guiding vision of me, through my team, through the extended family of WSN, being able to positively impact that million families. But aside from the big picture, when we're talking about the learnings and what I want to share, is what these changes do for those people that don't want to pursue vast visions like I've got, and don't want to pursue the scale that I have. Then these tools allow people to still be the architect of systems for themselves and work less, deliver more, and design businesses that are not as fragile. You know, I tried my business I designed to run in my absence. That's what this is all about. So that I'm able to be out doing things like this. I'm able out meeting with people and not be stuck doing paperwork that I don't like, because I'm just not that kind of guy.
Not many people like paperwork, Greg. Let's be honest about that. All right, what's the one thing you want someone to do differently after hearing this podcast?
Challenge yourself. Challenge yourself. How can you take a look at what you're doing and say, what do I want my business to look like? If you're an estate planning attorney and you want to earn more instead of work harder, how can I do this? How can I bring this in? Maybe I do want to add a financial advisor because I can bolt it on like Greg talks about. Or maybe I just want to be able to sit with my clients a little bit more confidently and capture the moments, taking the wows, enjoy the present, and get more joy from your own practice.
Interesting. Okay. Where do people go if this is the kind of practice they're trying to build?
So check into www.joinwsn.com, or just go to my primary entry point for my universe, which is www.gsdupont.com, and explore from there.
If you've not subscribed to the March to a Million podcast, make sure you do that. If you know of an estate planning attorney, financial advisor, or a client who really needs this information, please make sure you share this podcast with them. So for Greg DuPont, I'm RJ Malik, and we'll see you on the other side of the mic very soon.